And one has to think the way that they think. These people are very clever. Everything that happens is for a reason. And there may be a whole bunch of misdirects going on that are causing us to feel and think and worry about and maybe react against this thing over here, and something very quietly is happening over there. And we need to be smart enough to try and anticipate what these games are. And once again, I use the word game advisedly, because we have to see it that way. When our interview with Deagle, the one that we did last night, is published, and I hope to do that this afternoon because it's very, very important stuff, he presents a different scenario for what we might be experiencing, not just up to 2012, but up to maybe as late as 2019. He doesn't think that at all that things are suddenly going to go pear-shaped in December 2012. He's as sure as he can, and he's a very smart man, is Deagle. He's sure that Patrick Gerald and Cliff Hyatt got this all wrong. He says that there is likely to be some very intense solar activity that's going to result in physical effects on this planet, and that there will be a crustal displacement. It's a very interesting theory, this. Not a pole shift, but the Earth's crust is like the skin that's formed on hot milk. It sort of looks like it's solid, but actually it can move around. It doesn't break up, but it can break up, and it kind of floats about on this viscous surface, which actually is the hot magma underneath the crust. And he says that his calculations and insider sources indicate that over a period of time, what is likely to happen is that there will be a gradual crustal displacement that will happen at about walking pace, that will happen over a period of several months. Geologically, that's very, very fast, but it doesn't make for a good disaster movie, because the continents will start to rearrange themselves at the rate of about 2 kilometers an hour, just underneath half walking pace, something like that. But after 3 months, everything's going to be in a slightly different place, and then the weather's going to change, and then the ice caps are going to melt, and then the sea level's going to rearrange itself. And he says that Japan is probably going to disappear, and all kinds of things that are pretty heavy duty, but the world's not going to end. It's going to result in problems in food distribution. There's likely to be corona mass ejections, which will influence and affect anything that operates electromagnetically. We've had insider information ourselves at Camelot. We heard back in April from the wife of an electrical engineer who had suddenly been briefed that he had about 3 or 4 years to handle the problem of every transformer in the British national grid burning out. We corresponded with the wife of this guy for, there were several emails over a 3 or 4 day period because this guy was away. And she said, look, I can't answer your questions because I'm not a scientist, and I'll put them to him as soon as he returned home. Then we heard nothing else at all. Because presumably, we can only assume, and it felt absolutely real, we can only assume that this guy got home and said, what the hell are you doing? We can't talk to anyone about this. This has been too dangerous. I've been threatened. You can't do this. Please, you shouldn't have talked to these people. And then we've heard from other people a very, very similar thing. Bill Deagle confirms this. There are electrical engineers all over the world working in the public domain who've already been briefed that they need to take care of stuff that might possibly happen. And the population reduction plans, and this is such a big subject, it's very hard to go at it in a linear way. The population reduction plans are basically, see the obvious question is, look, if you're going to have significant earth changes and a breakdown in the infrastructure and a breakdown in food production and all of this, which are going to be life-threatening or life-ending for a lot of people. Why are they worried about reducing the world's population at the same time through artificial means as they are? And Deagle's response to this basically is that it's a matter of timing. They're trying to anticipate when these things will happen. They need to have the world's population reduced by the time that these things really kick in, because otherwise their own survival may be threatened by too many people running around doing unpredictable things. But before that, they don't want to wipe people out too quickly, which is one of the reasons why they may not have done it until now, because they want to keep up the manufacturing base, which they're dependent on, because the gadgets which they use to keep them alive in their underground bases, somebody's making these things. They're not making them in their own factories. You and I are making these things, metaphorically speaking. So the people in the factories all over the world need to be able to keep up their production. And so it's a matter of keeping things going for as long as possible, and then, just before the music stops, metaphorically speaking, then they're going to say, okay, you guys are not needed anymore. Now we start to reduce the world's population, and then the Earth changes start, and then they go all underground, and then they've got their plan B, which is the bases on the Moon and Mars. Now, all of this, Deagle says, may only start to pan out as late as 2019. He doesn't buy the 2012 thing at all, and I don't either. I suspect that the 2012 thing is a big misdirect. And the very fact that we've got this Roland Emmerich movie coming out confirms to me that it's more likely to be a misdirect. It's like, right, if he's saying this, then something else is going to be happening. In the meantime, we're all meant to be believing this. But there's something going on. And we and you and a whole bunch of other people who are watching this movie right now are busy trying to figure this out. We're not jumping on a bandwagon to claim that Bill Deagle is correct about this, but he's very, very smart, he's very, very well-intentioned, he's got his own insider sources, and what he was describing, which very soon after, if not before, this video is published, we will have that full hour-and-a-half audio on our site. It's the kind of thing you need to listen to 3 or 4 times, because it's very, very intense. It rang true to me. It's not a disaster, but it's a big change. It happens every 11,500 years, and was the same kind of thing that we read about in the legends, as the legend of Atlantis, the Great Flood, so on and so forth. A whole bunch of stuff happened, but it wasn't a big wipeout. It was just a little bit of a reset and a little bit of a reorganization, and a lot of the high technology that existed back in those days disappeared. And then that correlates, of course, with what Hoagland has been saying all this time, which is really, really interesting. He says all these ruins that are on Mars and on other planets that he thinks moons, on rocky moons, Iapetus, one of the moons of is it Saturn or Jupiter? I can't remember. It's got incredible structures on it. I mean, the whole solar system seems to be littered with artifacts of different kinds. But he says it's just humans having done their thing in previous ages.